that machinery. What do you have? I have lithium. Can I take my lithium? I give you. You give me what I want. There's food that is coming. What do you want? I want uranium. I give you uranium. You give me. So barter system. Now, when you understand things in that simplistic way, and then comes these intellectuals who begin to tell you about GDPs and imports and exports, and in the hands of these intellectuals, we have suffered bureaucratic delays to an extent where communities are protesting, unemployment, and what. And to me, yes, that's when I feel the world is falling apart. Because in my head, it creates what I call psychological dissonance, cognitive dissonance, literally.
Yeah. But why do you think that is? Why do you think our African governments and our African leaders are not getting that?
They can do better. They are institutionalized academically to think like that. They all went to school. They have PhDs, they have masters. They went to Harvard. They went to Gideon's or Gordon's or whatever it is. Gibbs. They have papers to justify what the professor from Harvard and from Britain said. So it's impossible that you can actually teach the African West and then he works African. Or you teach him East and then he works African. You're putting round poles in square holes. And so there's a mismatch between the quality of the leader that we have and the practical issues that are on the ground on which they are working.
Yeah.
How can you be an African child who comes from Eastern Cape, who does not know the sacred places that are in Eastern Cape, right here? Your heritage is next door, but that heritage is written nowhere in your books. Nowhere. You're at 5 kilometers from Port and Jones in those beautiful pools. You're 10 kilometers away. You have never been told the value, the use, and how the local community can create an ecotourism around that, make businesses, create massage parlors, create what I'm just using a very simplistic way of business, collecting those waters and packaging them and selling them to the whole world and making money, the sacred pools and what. These ideas of innovation.
Yeah.
And until our education begins maybe to have a conversation around the critical issues, how does African child convert their raw materials into business opportunities and export them? Who come here, hereby apply for a job. I work under pressure. I'm a team player. You know, what a weak education. I mean, yesterday on flight, I sat down with this lady who was busy telling me about fees must fall. Very, very patriotic and
passionate.
Fees must fall.
Yeah,
Fees must fall. And I said
people.
to her, as a young lady, I said, "Oh, what a poor agenda! How can you be fighting for fees must fall when, in fact, curriculum must fall? You are fighting for an education that is not available, and you want fees to fall so that you can access a useless education. I'm not saying it's useless in terms of the reading and writing, but the value of it is universities have become a photocopying ground of unemployment.
But what should be the agenda?
The agenda must be that before you go to school, on your way to school, create a problem paper. Have a problem in the community. Take off your shoes. Walk your streets. Jump the sewage pipes.
Yes.
See the children playing in the mud. Walk the shacks. See the illegal connections of electricity. Walk into those rooms. See the quality of life people are living. Go to the market. See the taxis. See the rubbish.
Yeah.
Go to the dam where the water is coming from. See. Look around. 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Don't hurry me. And diarize everything that you see. Come back home and now begin to synthesize and say, what am I going to do to solve one of this problem? Maybe 2 or 3 if they are related. Come to me now as an institution of learning and I sit you down. As a young lady, so what did you see? You have some already video clips from your phone. I saw this, I saw this, I saw this. What did you come up with? I think I want to solve the issue of sewage that is seeping in our community.
Yeah.
Now here is the university, it's open. Now start studying for the next 4 years.
Problem.
And in the next 4 years, you're getting introduced to systems, how architectural work, sewage, recycling, packaging, and etc., water reticulation, and etc. You are networking with other engineers in all that project. By the time you finish your school, me as government, I will trust you with funds in youth development fund and say, now, go back to your community in Tanzania and solve that problem. Now, here you are. 2 different students coming out of one institution.
One is set on solving a problem
One goes back into the village, and by the time they close their eyes, there's no more pipe that is leaking of sewage in the community. The other one will put more sewage onto the road.
You mentioned this disconnect with young people and their heritage, and young people not knowing their heritage. It is Heritage Month, and it has become this thing where we just wear, our traditional regalia. Yes, we wear traditional regalia only on the 24th of September, and that's all. But could you start, by breaking down what heritage really means for us as Africans, especially in a way that young people can understand?
Colonialism capitalizes on the colonized to patronize it with cash. You buy a culture that is oppressing you. You support it with your cash. It does not go for free.
Yeah.
If you are going to be Eurocentric, you are going to eat Eurocentric. You pay for that food. You are going to dress Eurocentric. You pay for that. You are going to go couture, which is Gucci, you pay for that. You are going to do a lifestyle that is French restaurants, moieties, champagnes.
Yeah.
You see when you are getting educated, being introduced to those Barbie dolls and whatever, the pictures of beauty, the pictures of success, what kind of a house are you going to live in, when you're successful, what must you do? And school works to build that picture for you. And then by the time you graduate, you are going to take all your money to build, to fit into those tight pants that you were told this is what you look like. You're going to poke your ears and poke your tongues, put belly buttons and etc. Because the whole educational experience was to introduce you to your lifestyle. So you need to patronize the culture that has occupied you. Now hear me saying the most unfamiliar thing. The African now needs to colonize himself with himself. She needs to colonize herself with herself.
Please unpack that.
We need to repopulate the propaganda that has been pumped in our heads with the propaganda of ourselves until we begin to have a better picture of ourselves, in ourselves. And only from there will we begin to eat indigenous. Will we begin to dress indigenous? Will we become creative in terms of taking holidays to sacred places? Will we know that going to Portland Jones and getting myself washed in those pools is more important than going to Easter and busy singing the Jesus who died on the cross and he never came down? So that for me, when you're talking about heritage, then I get really passionate, because then heritage becomes the bank of our currency. I've been to Singapore. When you get in there, the first thing that you see, which is being marketed, it is the Singaporean shirt, that material. You get to China, you get to Dubai, you get to Britain. I was there a few months ago. There's nowhere in all those shops that you don't see that small little British flag. As pyramids, as as caps, as what are they selling? They're selling you the British Empire and the emblems of their history. The Piccadilly Circus, the Oxford Circus, the London Bridge, the Buckingham Palace, miniature this, miniature that. And the world is spending millions just to say, I was in Britain and this is what I brought. You come to Africa. The first thing that insults you is a restaurant when you wake up in the morning. What are you going to have? French breakfast or English breakfast? In Africa. Are you telling me that you imported this food from France? That I'm eating here, you call it French breakfast. English breakfast. Tanzania. English breakfast pa. Ibe Buckingham Palace Lento, Ibe Gaston Bridge, Ibe Salisbury. Where is it coming from? So when we begin to patronize our culture, you begin to see the movement of currency from the working class towards the indigenous organic people, either who are into food production or into clothing manufacturing or innovation or any various forms of medicine, reproduction and other things. I was in a conference yesterday in Victoria Falls where I'm beginning even to advocate of indigenous birth centers.
Indigenous
birth centers. We have ladies in our community who know how to deliver children. Mahala, no cesarean section. They will even tell you what to eat for the 6 to 7, 8 months. So that the delivery becomes painless. Eat lots of okra, what, and toward the 7th, 8th month, you're not even allowed to go to the toilet. Because you may think you're doing number 2 and the child is coming out. There's technologies that are there. Some of us know those technologies. And the medical aid is willing to pay.
Yes.
The hospital, 55,000 to cut your stomach. And by now, you must know, more than 60 to 85% of all births are now cesarean sections.
Yeah.
Why? Because it is profitable for the medical aids and the business institutions. It's a birth control measure also, because you can only do 2 or 3 children. After that, you can't.
Yes.
Because we've cut you already, and women have already started believing that women can deliver children naturally. So in a world where I live, when we have these technologies that are here, you are willing to pay 55,000 to get your stomach cut. Or you can go to a hut and sit with the lady there for about 4 or 5 months and you deliver the baby naturally. Why are the medical aids only prepared to pay when you are being cut in the hospital? And they are not prepared to pay the old lady who can get the same job done and done quick and clean.
And these are our old ways, how we've been doing things for...
Look at the change of policy on such a small thing like that. How much money will start moving from medical aids into the houses of the grandmothers who are sitting as Lale and Pa, beginning also to feel the appreciation of, look at the amount of medicines. You go to China, you go to India. There's mainstream medicine, there's alternative medicines.
Yeah.
And people are actually flying from here to India to go and do alternative medicine. Mai, Faradale, and every South African town, Zimbabwean town has a place where these herbs are. When will our universities and our governments stop calling this a witchcraft act and begin to take these herbs into the laboratories of the cities, beneficiate them, study them, package them, IP them, domestic use and international use? You get to India, do you want alternative medicine or do you want synthetic medicines? You make a choice. Do you want to deliver naturally or you want to deliver in a synthetic environment? You make a choice. And for me, this is where the business begins to make sense. That heritage, it's not about just putting on a lousy piece of cloth and say I'm celebrating. It has to do with an overhauling from governance. Every government is legitimate. Ask me why.
Why?
Because the country borders were designed by Berlin Conference. And we were not there when Berlin Conference drew those borders. So any president in Africa who claims to have territory is actually glorifying what Berlin Conference did. So if we remove Berlin Conference, there's no country that remains. So we're dealing with illegitimate governments, implementing an illegitimate legislative framework. Rome and Dutch law. Are we in Rome? Are we in Deutschland here?
Do you think then Pan-Africanism would be the solution to that?
It's not an ultimate solution, but it's a platform of conversation for serious, internal, critical interrogations to say, why did we go to war to fight for the land to restore it to our kings? But when he came back, Nelson Mandela became the king. Robert Mugabe became the king. Samora Machel became the king. But when you left home, you said you were going to bring back the land to the kings. Now, the presidents and the multinationals are distributing land to each other, which they call state land, which does not belong to them. And the local communities now, in our generation, are beginning to make noise. Look at Lesotho. Begin to say, hey, Mona, let's look at a very interesting scenario.
Okay.
I know this will cause lots of backlash, but I'm ready for it. If Ntababsiku and Bloemfontein, up to Bethlehem, and Harry Smith can be swallowed back into Lesotho.
Yeah.
If Mpumalanga and Nelspruit, Panyamazana, right up into Witbank, can be swallowed back into Swaziland, Eswatini, and Zeerust, Rustenburg, Lehurutse can be swallowed back into Botswana. Venda, Limpopo from Mapunguke can be swallowed back into Zimbabwe. Guyana and the other direction can be swallowed back into Mozambique.
Yeah.
Maybe the real question is, how much of South Africa do we think we have? Because the borders which we are using are colonial borders, which were not designed by us, which disregarded the people who are living around these areas, even up to date, whose relatives are across both lines. You must have a passport to visit your aunt who is across the river.
So you are, based on that, pro one currency, one state, one president?
I would not say it better. One president, one army, one form of education, one language, one stock exchange, one satellite for entertainment. And of course, it just makes business much, much easier. And the illusion that many South Africans have is that whole Africa will run to South Africa. No, we all love our countries. We come here because the resources, the workspaces, there are much more varieties of what we need. If you look right now on your export spaces, Zimbabwe is buying not less than 30 to 60% of the products from here to Zimbabwe. So why are they buying these things? There are no people there. Many of these people are coming here too. But imagine when we activate the manufacturing and industrial fraternities within those countries and people are able to access work at the doorsteps of their houses. South Africa will benefit from that. Because then you become a shopping center. We make our money where we are and we come and buy here. Unfortunately now, because there's poor industrialization, we come to South Africa both for work and for shopping. If you doubt that, go and stand in Petersburg every year at the end of the year. See how many of those cars, those kumbis, are driving, and all of them are loaded from the roof. And every day those buses you see going out there, ask them to open that small little thing at the back, that trailer there. See the amount of TVs and furnitures and food and tell me that all that transaction that is happening there is not benefiting South Africans. So in the long term, yes, Dudula and other people, I hear the frustration, I hear the short term. Like the other person was saying to me the other day, hey, no, Maponga, you must go back home, you are taking away our jobs. And I said, don't be plural. Talk to me. It says, you are taking away your job. I said, okay, what is my job? Okay, Maponga J writes. I'm a writer, I'm an author. So if I take my pen and paper and I start writing my books, which job have I taken away from you?
From you.
Damn you, take your pen and paper.
And write.
Write. I write TV programs. Right. Whose job am I taking away? Write for yourselves. And I think a doctor, a medical doctor who graduated from the University of Zimbabwe, is working here. You're taking away my job. A whole person who failed matric, arguing with a doctor who saved his mother and grandmother in hospital. He's taking away your job. But just go to school and study and become a doctor also.
Most likely gave birth to him. What are your hopes, Bishop, for the continent of Africa?
My hope is you. My hope is you, young people. Because as long as we have the same narrative and style of thinking, even if you get into power, you do what your leaders are doing, if not worse. We needed a new software so that we can be able to control the hardware. We needed a new way of thinking so that we can change the institutions of power. Because these institutions of power were not built for us, with us in mind. They were built to maintain the multinational looting of resources out of the country. And until our young people can begin to know where to protest, stop destroying and digging up roads that have been built by the municipalities and the government, guys. Go to Rustenburg. Go to these mines and stop those trucks. That's where the real looting of your resources are happening. So the correct agenda set, that is the hope that I have for Africa, and it's beginning to work. And I'm glad when I hear presidents such as Boko, they're beginning to talk my language, you know. Guys in Zimbabwe, Kazambi, they're talking. And I look at Hakainde, picking some of the principles that I've been espousing for the past 20 years. And now when I hear Ibrahim Traore implementing the Farmers of Thought Road to One Africa agenda, even to go and extend that in next month, we're actually going with Chomboro and PLO Lumumba. The 1,000 Americans have been given permanent residence in Burkina Faso. Oh. So we're going to be welcoming them into Burkina Faso. He is the president. Now look at this. You have these doctors. You have these technicians, IT specialists, media gurus, you know, financial mongols who are black, who want to come back home. They have their money, they have their education, they have their resources, and they have their experience. All you do as a country is to give them a piece of land and say you can start building your houses here. These are proper legal immigrants who are returning home, and they bring with them the necessary skills. My advice to Traore when I go to see him next month is profile all of these people that have come, attach them to various ministries, and pull out the juice of their intellect, as the Western world is also doing on us. All our most educated and experienced young people. Every country, the Rhodes Foundation. Ask me what the business is. The Rhodes Foundation. Ask me what is their business. The Rhodes Foundation. It is to harvest the best of what South Africa has and ship it away, and we end up being ruled by fools. And you wonder what is the problem in Africa, in the America, in the United Nations come around. We don't understand the African problem. We don't understand. You must understand. How can you take the cream of the country through these scholarships? They're in Germany right now. They're in America. They're in Florida. They're in Massachusetts. They're in Cambridge. They're in Australia. And they're not coming back. These are engineers.
Building other nations, building other countries.
And these people who are doing this, it's evil. Ugog elalinpa ekop will sell her cows and her goats. She will sell bananas and mangoes and apples to send their child to Fort Hare. The child in Fort Hare is harvested by Rhodes University and is shipped across the ocean. Never to come back again, except to sending mama a small little lousy $100 a month to buy groceries. And yet this child has emptied the whole kraal of cattle and exhausted the parents in their own homes. And for me, when the Western world is doing this, we may think that this is bliss. But in the return of that, when we now as Africans begin to get into America, into Europe, and we're also able to harvest these children, then we can benefit from the resource of which they have invested as much as they've also harvested from what we have invested in.
Remember, you can send your messages on 083-950-7019. That is 083-950-7019. We do have a couple of voice notes here. It said...
Thank you, Africa, Mama Africa.